Okay, welcome to the May 20th Hartland Selectboard meeting. We're starting at 5:30. First order of business are the minutes. I would entertain a motion to accept both the regular and the executive session minutes of May the 6th. So moved. Thank you, Tom. A second? A second. Thank you, Jim. Any discussion?
I think we started to realize that one of the motions didn't have the person who made the motion, so I just had to correct it. That was from the main meeting. I'll try to articulate that a little better. Was it correct earlier? Oh, no.
So on regular.
Hang on, I think I highlighted it here. On number 6, I believe, personnel policy. Oh, never mind. I see it now. Strike that comment.
Yeah. You made the motion and Tom said did the second. Yeah. Okay. Are we set?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the May 6th regular minutes, say aye. I believe the motion passes. All in favor of passing the May 6th executive session minutes, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
Did we need to do an executive session to talk about evaluations?
We thought we were, but we're not going to. Okay.
Can you repeat that? Yeah, my question was, do we need to do an executive session at all tonight to talk about staff evaluations?
And we'll do that on the June 3rd meeting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hearing no adjustments to the agenda, let's move on to public comments.
Sure. None online.
None online?
No comments online.
Okay. Moving on to old business. Tonight we have no old business, it's all new business. So let's jump right into the vendors ordinance discussion.
I think we're going to do the orders.
Do the orders. You didn't do the orders.
You're right. My papers are totally out of order tonight.
Sorry, just real quick. For those of you who brought a packet, please use the packet that was on the table in front of you. It will help to.
How about the electronic one?
The electronic one that went out at about the latest electronic one that went out today will be accurate. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I looked at that.
Yeah. So please don't use the electronic one from last week. Right. You'll be confused.
So I need a motion to entertain.
I move that we pay the accounts payable through
May 20th today. Thank you, Clyde. Is there a second? Thank you, Jim. Okay. Any discussion?
I had one question related to greater titles in terms of, how often do they get right? And why, did they say right before?
They got replaced because they were worn out. as tires do. This set lasted us about 6 years,
Okay.
and we can anticipate about the same amount of wear on these tires as well.
And I think John and I spoke about unnecessary use of the loader to curtail any tire maintenance.
Correct, trying to limit the amount that we're driving it back and forth across paved roads. Right?
Also, I was driving through West Windsor last week. It seems like we use the grader to also York rake the road after we do it. They use a pickup truck.
Yes, currently you are correct. The suggestion has been brought forward in the past couple of weeks about getting a York rake for the front of a truck as well.
Yeah.
So we could do that as well.
We actually used to do that. So, yeah, okay. John, there's a bill in here for the Clean Vision. Just was wondering if are there any updates on identifying a cleaning firm for the library?
There are no additional information on the library cleaning staff. They need to, Tracy is working to trying to find a cleaner that fits within their existing budget.
Okay.
Is that the optimal word? Existing budget?
That's,
The dwindling budget for the
yes,
end of the year.
And I'm just not familiar with the process, right? Does the contract must come back to you when you sign? Okay?
I don't know where their existing contract that they've been with a Clean Vision firm for a handful of years. There was a turnover in management. The problem they're running into is all the quotes they're getting back are significantly higher than what they are paying. And they don't have the budget to pay for that yet. So, and whether that comes to me first to review. Tracy has been sending them to me to date.
Yeah, I guess I'm just unclear, when you get to building maintenance like that, is it our responsibility or the library's responsibility?
That is an ongoing discussion that we are having with the library, and we will try to clarify that in the coming months.
Yeah.
Does Rob have it? How often does cleaner come in?
So it gets cleaned once a week. Rob cleans here. He helps out over there, moving the paper towel dispenser down, et cetera. Sounds like the library staff is chipping in as they have the time as well. It's a big building. There's a lot of, vacuuming. There's, it's a lot of work. I don't know that Rob has the space to take it on.
Right. And unlike here, there's more people traffic through the library.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Just as a side note, John and I met with, are you going to talk about the library meeting?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We met with the chair of the library trustees, as well as Tracy, Jim, to ask some of the specific questions of just ownership and especially as we hope grants will come through soon and we want to implement those correctly. Any other questions on the warrants? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the orders/warrants through today, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Again, let's go on to the vendor ordinance discussion.
Sure. So at the last meeting, you all decided to pause the vendors ordinance. It came to light through additional conversations with VLCT about how do we unpause the vendors ordinance, that was not the action that was should have been taken. You cannot pause an ordinance under Vermont statute. You can pause enforcement of an ordinance under Vermont statute. And then to unpause it, the board would just say, pass a motion to say we would like to unpause the vendors ordinance or any other ordinance.
But is it a board decision or a town manager decision?
I think since you all passed the motion in a meeting to pause the enforcement, you would make the motion to unpause it. You might want to, I don't know that at this point though, it's actually the enforcement of the vendors ordinance is paused based on the wording of the motion that was made at the last meeting.
Right. And tonight we have a new, you modified it.
You modified it slightly, but in order to modify it, it would need to get rewarned to like a full public hearing as well.
Is that 30 days?
Yeah.
Okay. So are folks comfortable with the wording of the change?
There is, Jim, you had a different version that kind of tidied up some of the language a little bit.
I think what we're trying to do, right, is for not-for-profit, private community groups, grant an exception that the town manager can let them use the front line, right? That's our goal. To allow them to use one of the spaces that the ordinance says you can't. Right, but specifically the front of it. Well, do we want to say specifically, or? I just want to call, we don't have to change the word, I just want to understand the intent. Okay. Right. So if that's the intent, is to allow not-for-profit community groups, to give the town manager discretion to use the front of the Inn Hall, I think you need to word this a little differently. Instead of putting an exception of an applicant, I'm not going to say it. So we have to take this word.
Applicability.
Instead of putting an exception there, right, which grants an exception for every, which means you can have Girl Scouts, on the common at the intersection, blocking traffic or potentially getting hit by a car. You want to move the exception down to number 2, right? And under number 2, you want to say the town manager has the discretion to grant access to use the front lawn of Damon Hall for not-for-profit.
And you have a copy of Jim's with his suggestion highlighted, if you would like to. I just have, want to take a look.
So that was in the new packet?
No, this is.
You don't want to make this an exception for the entire ordinance. You want to make an exception for a specific area, right?
I don't see it. I think I'm looking at
that is what you're looking at is the one that was my cut. The one that I have a single copy of is Jim's edits to my, Jim's suggested edits to my edits. Does that make sense?
I just got no. We have a in the paragraph applicability. We have some new language.
Right. So my point is, I think that language is more on spot.
Okay, so is that coming out?
Yeah, and it's getting moved down to number 2 under procedure. It's like,
so there's a new draft that you can look at, but we'll show that in one.
Where is it? I'm sorry, where is it?
right here in my hand.
Oh, but none of us have seen it.
That is correct.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so, okay, that makes sense. So, Jim, I like your idea, but I was also thinking about this, and I was thinking of the school, Four Corners School. I mean, that could be a nice location if somebody wanted to do something there. So my point is that I don't know if it's necessarily just for in front of.
But you can grant access there to the town manager can do.
Not according to this.
So to the applicability just lays out the geography. The procedure lays out in that geography where you absolutely can't do it.
I just don't want to set up the town manager to be getting screamed at a lot because why did you let, Tom Kennedy go there and I want to do almost the same thing and you're not letting me do it.
But under procedure 1, John can allow you to be in front of the activity center, the rec center, the library, right? The only place that he's not allowed to give you access is what's specifically itemized in number 2 under procedure.
So the areas that were excluded before, the North Hartland Park, the lawn of Damon Hall.
So let me just pull up on the
you guys have me very confused. I'm not.
Yeah, I think why don't we just talk about it generically and then take this up next time because I want to see this.
So let me just give you a shot of language here, right? So
which section? Okay.
In number 2, right?
Under procedure.
Yep. Right. Under procedure. My suggestion is to add an area
there. It's so that we include the area in front of the soldier monument as off limits. Okay, so that would be in addition to the exclusions. And then the last sentence would read, at the town manager's discretion, a permit can be issued for the front lawn of Damon Hall for not-for-profit Hartland community groups, provided that they conduct business in a manner safe to traffic and pedestrians.
Sure. Yeah, I wonder why we wouldn't say, drop the specific area and just say, mentioning the lawn area of Damon Hall, and just say the town manager has the right to grant access to any of these areas. I mean, why are we excluding the North Hartland?
Why take out the park in North Hartland and
because they're going to ask the town manager, why can't we be there? And if it's been disapproved by the board, then he's got some backup to say, no, we don't have to.
Well,
But if we leave it open,
we already say, we say you can't.
yeah, so
We do.
Our select board specifically excluded those areas because they were concerned about traffic and health and safety.
Right.
Now we have a slightly reconfigured intersection here that has crosswalks where there were none before. Right, it has, designated parking that's well marked. So I think, this is the area that people are asking to use. That's where you give the town manager the ability to approve an exception. But, this is just for you guys to think it through, right? You'll get a copy of it, you can read it, you can mark it up.
Yeah.
Read on it next week. Yeah. But for this meeting, I think what I'm hearing John say is we should make a motion to unpause or reinstate the ordinance as currently written.
Right. I think what has to happen tonight is either a specifically worded motion to pause the enforcement of the currently adopted vendor's ordinance, or to clarify what was intended at the last meeting. Because pausing the ordinance, the motion that was made at the last meeting, it has no merit, basically, because you cannot pause an ordinance.
So I would suggest that we just pause the enforcement until we figure this out.
So I think that's the motion that should.
But do we need to pause the enforcement of the whole ordinance? I mean, nobody else is asking right now.
No. I mean,
Nobody else is asking, but we don't know what tomorrow. I would say we don't know what tomorrow brings.
5 phone calls tomorrow morning.
So I came through the intersection Saturday 3 times. Cars were parked haphazardly, people crossing the street without looking. It's still not safe out front, in my opinion.
Was this, Martin, was this during the?
During the plant sale. I came through it at 8:30, 8:45, again around 12, and then again around 2, and it was still haphazard. I think it would be safer if they were over here or over to the library. It gets them off the main road.
oh, to the side of the building.
The side of the building, it gets them out of there.
Yeah.
People do not stop at the stop signs. We sit here, we watch it all day long. They do not stop at the stop sign.
You don't?
It doesn't matter Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, California. The one in front of Mascoma Bank, 90% of the people do not stop. They slow down, they take a quick peek, and they go because of right turn on red. So just my food.
How do you feel about it?
I think that's accurate. I wasn't here on Saturday, but I can attest to the fact that there's a lot of rolling stops.
Well, this whole thing is really based on not hurting the feelings of people that are trying to benefit the town of Hartland, right? So now if we give them a year's notification that we tried to help you out this time around, but next year we are absolutely going to be using the rec center, I could understand that.
Sure.
I could understand that.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah, if the people that were selling the plants and things had just got, like, they were getting ready to sell it here like they always do, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, the town says, no, you can't do that. a sensitivity factor. So if we send them all letters saying this is no offense to anybody, but the rule's been in place and we have to follow it up because traffic in the front, even though we've done work to it, has not changed anything. It's still too dangerous and it's bothering the people that work in Dana Hall that are professionals that run the town. So it needs to be done where the rec department is, because that's a recreational facility that's got parking space and it's safer over there.
It gets them off the main.
Right.
So,
I don't think it's going to hurt anybody's feelings. to do that.
so Trace, I was here at around 10, between 10 and 10:30 or so. And the tomato plants were gone by to get my cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
Yeah.
Cheers.
But I did not notice the intersection being clogged. You know, people had their heads down planting plants in the new pollinator garden, and people were walking around, you know, buying plants. So I wasn't here at the same time you were, but I had a different experience.
Yeah.
But I think my experience was close to yours.
Yeah.
There was also an event at the rec center the same day.
Yeah, there was.
Same truck thing.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
Strange
That's
traffic. I mean, everybody that I saw crossing the street was going over there.
Yeah. Okay, so
So, yeah,
we're having our discussion. Are there any other points we want to consider?
I think you just look at the new version, we talk about it next, and make a decision.
Correct.
Yeah.
We either do something to it, we either change it, or we do it wrong.
And if we leave it alone, then to Trace's point, everybody has, now they have 11 and a half months notice to.
Years, I would just like a way to get Girl Scout cookies next year.
No.
Actually, I think they're at Mike's this year.
Yeah, my grandmother was
Because they couldn't sell them here.
Stop at the food shelf. They donated.
It's so terrible now anyways. Such a disappointment.
Okay, do I need a motion to unpause?
No.
Well, I don't think,
We'll
so
just let it ride.
well, the motion to pause is somewhat moot because it doesn't have any meaning to it, because you can't pause an ordinance. So if we wanted to amend the motion to say we're pausing the enforcement of the vendor's ordinance.
I'm happy to do that. I'm not sure we need to.
Okay. then let's-
We have an ordinance, it's in effect.
Great.
If somebody happens to fall,
Mhm.
worry about it. But
Okay.
we have an emergency meeting if the Girl Scouts come back.
So I just wanted to be clear, after this meeting, the old vendor's ordinance will be in full effect with no exceptions
Until we have a hearing.
until we have a hearing, until,
Decide on a change, have a hearing.
Yes.
Done.
okay,
There's nothing pressing right now, so we don't have to worry about it.
okay.
Until we try to close it in.
But if you work, that's be good. There's some flowers sold for this year.
Okay,
John, are you going forward?
Yep, I will do that.
moving on to the town highway job description. This is for one of the everyday staff in the highway department.
That is correct, and this is for highway crew. We did the road foreman job description last week. I suspect we'll be seeing them for the next couple of months until we get everybody's approved. This is, so for the rest of the highway crew, VLCT did have a model highway crew job description, and this is largely built on that, incorporating some of the things that we had put in the road foreman job description to make sure some of the language mirrored each other. Also incorporating some, specifically under experience and education and training, having a CDL is recommended, not necessarily required. It's a fair question on whether or not it should be required. We currently have at least one person on staff who does not have a CDL. We can make it a mandatory requirement.
Given the number of big trucks that we have to drive.
Right.
Can you afford to have more than one person that doesn't have one?
More than one?
Everybody has a CDL now, right?
Not everybody does.
Not everybody does.
Correct.
So the newest thing so before the CDL, you could take the driver's test, and then you ran the truck, and you can drive the truck, and you can get your CDL. Now you have to go to class. It's about $6,000. It's a totally different, it changed 2 years ago. So it's not like Evan, when we hired Evan in 2019, we helped him get his CDL. We were able to do that. We cannot do that anymore. They have to go to school, and I believe there's a school in Bellows Falls.
Right. We could potentially,
Pay for it?
we could potentially pay for them to go to the school, but it would be them, we're paying them to go to this class for an extended period of time.
Contract with them, give us time.
Well, how long does it take?
I don't know
It's
this.
a 12 or 18 week.
Yeah, and you're paying them as an employee and you're paying for the course?
That's generally how they do it nowadays.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they leave.
Well, so then we would have to, if that is the case, we would have to have some sort of agreement with that employee that, you are here then for 18 months or 2 years. Exactly. Exactly.
Or they have to pay back the funding.
Right.
So maybe the wording, and you decide, it's your real description, but maybe there's some wording in there that says, so well, preferred is good, but if needed, the town may expect you to complete CDL training and get your CDL license. Just something that gives you an out or a lever if you need it.
Sure. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the job description for advertisement for that position should say CDL license needed, before they apply, hopefully.
Yeah, so it's either, we either put it in as is required or preferred.
Yeah.
And preferred opens the door for us,
Right.
sending them to the training or.
I'm assuming you don't need a CDL license to drive the loader, to drive
The 1 ton.
The one ton,
ton.
either of the smaller
drive a
trucks.
snow plow or snow blower.
Correct.
So there are some jobs that they could do without a CDL license if there was a slot for that person, and it didn't say that in their job description that they needed a CDL license.
Exactly.
There would be one of those open for somebody if the job description does not say CDL license on it.
Exactly. The person we have now who doesn't have their CDL is a skilled equipment operator. So they do all those things and they do them quite well. So, but now, could we have two? Is there a space for two? Arguably not.
Just given some of the past years' experiences underperforms routine maintenance. Would like to insert fluid checks, including fluid checks, washing and cleaning.
Sure.
And then further down, the bullet that talks about participates in all safety training offered and sponsored by the town and Vermont local roads. It feels limiting. How can we, should another training opportunity
This is on the first page. It's the
in the major duties and responsibilities.
guys pull it up from the bottom. Well, I would say while there may be additional trainings that come through, they are periodic at best.
Yeah, so under general, because I had the same question, Phil, it says must engage in all required safety supervision and other appropriate trainings. So it sort of seems to me that's a catch-all. But we could be more specific.
On the next page, Tom?
Yeah.
Under general, sure.
I mean, maybe we just want to add equipment. So must engage in all. Yeah. Maybe I'm going back to it. Yeah, maybe if we go back to safety training, so we say participate in safety and equipment trainings offered.
Okay, that's
And just
And I get a little nervous about all. There could be, but.
so participate in safety and equipment training offered,
Yeah.
period. And if,
Or, I mean, you could offer it as a sign.
yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose equipment is a key word, but other types of training.
You could just make it generic.
We could just take out
Safety.
just participate in all trainings offered and sponsored by the town of Vermont local road. I mean, local road, you'll get into culverts and all that other stuff.
Budgeting, all of they do.
They do all that.
The entire
stuff,
suite
so,
of-
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I mean, I think we should leave it to the discretion of public works director and the town manager.
So it's feedback, but we don't need to. Motion.
Yeah, so yeah, this is again, just for your information. So we'll make these changes. We'll start getting folks to come in and sign them.
Great.
Get copies of it to everybody.
Has anybody seen it in advance? Somebody come in and sign it?
Bill had seen both the draft road foreman and this one in advance.
Maybe we should send it to the employees, just FYI,
Yeah.
so they,
Yeah.
you don't hand it to them, tell them to sign it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I have talked with folks
Right.
as they've come in, as we've crossed paths about, we are going to be doing this. So hopefully nobody's caught unaware.
Silence that company.
It's a popular guy.
Well, we're just going to wait for dinner. Bye. See you. Moving on to item 3. This is 2 contracts, both the activity center and the co-op nursery school. The contracts are up for renewal, and
Leases. Are there any changes to this compared to others?
No, there are not.
Outside of dates and.
Outside of dates and names at the bottom,
Yeah.
there are not. One of the questions that we had was whether or not we were covering our expenses with the rent that we were getting in for each structure. So I took a look at the old leases that I had that I could track down for both the Four Corners and the Hartland Co-op. And at the Four Corners, the rent has been steady since 2020. And for the past 3 years, we've largely been kind of breaking even. The 3 years before that, we lost money due to kind of some, heavier or higher than expected repair bills and maintenance costs. And then at the co-op, the rent has been,
Question. So you're talking about the activity center?
the activity center, the Four Corners.
And have you factored in the taxes we have to pay on that?
Correct. So that the town budgets, we set aside, so for this past year, we set aside $12,600 and we budgeted that for expenses, including taxes, water, supplies, maintenance, repairs, all of that. This past year, we budgeted $12,600, we spent $9,900. So, but if you go back to 2021, the town budgeted $14,000 for those same items and spent $17,000.
right, and that was I believe that was the painting of the building, and they encountered lead. So it was a rather involved situation.
So we looked at it, 2019, 2020, 2021, we lost money every year. And we spent more money doing those routine maintenance things and taxes. Since 2021, we have essentially broken even or
And we potentially need to do more work there, right? But, I mean, I don't know, in the past, we've heard that there might be roofing work that needs to be done.
right. This past winter, a piece of siding came off and we had to go, take that off. There's, lights and kind of routine things that you would expect from owning a building. So, but again, at the Four Corners, the rent has been steady since 2020.
What do you think the market rent would be for that building?
Tough to for the Four Corners building, for the entire building is double to triple what we are currently getting in rent. I mean, $850 is a very good deal for an entire building. Granted, they are doing the town a public service with running the daycare center. But if you look at what
Rather
people
have it filled than what we have in North Hartland.
correct, correct.
Yeah, and I've said this before that I was fairly new on the board when there was a general discussion of identifying the importance of daycare and that this was the least the town could do to offer the rent at a break-even mark, even though for a few years we were not even
Correct.
On that point.
But shouldn't we at least raise it a small amount to get the cycle started, so to speak? I mean, we're just going to lose more and more.
So it seems that looking at I looked at the rent at the Four Corners from 2014 to today. It seems like we raise the rents on average in every 3-year cycle. You know, we went 2014 to 2016, it was 600, and we went 2016 to 2018, it was 800 since.
So that was sizable.
Right, that was sizable. We went from 800 to 850 though. So a much smaller increase.
And how long has it been? When was the last time we raised it?
The last time we raised it was 2020. So it's been 4 or 5 years.
4 years.
When will it take effect?
July 1. And the leases are for 1 year.
John, may I ask Martin, there was discussion of this last year. Ms. Rainey, I believe, had some concern about the rent going up.
I think concern that, and she was having, I believe, financial difficulties and wanted us to pass the rent for 3 months or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
We chose not to do that.
So I don't think the operation itself is necessarily built to make money. It's just to.
I don't think we can make that assumption. We also have people at that meeting that said she was the highest around because they had their kids in there.
Say that again, Jim.
We also had somebody make a public comment at that meeting who said that their kids went there and she had the highest rate in the local area. So I don't think we can assume anything about her profitability without knowing it.
Maybe she has more teacher or student ratio. Oh, they don't call it a daycare anymore. It's school now. But she may have more expenses because she has more staffing members available, but also you have to be careful that we're just falling into another inflation piece that is the cycle. So the parents she's going to end up raising the cost per student. And the people that live in our town that drop their kids off, the ones that are going to be once again paying for an increase. So I understand that, but in Jim's thoughts that a slight increase is probably appropriate.
Mm-hmm. There was a big increase. There was a comment from Cheyenne. She believes the nursery school is a nonprofit.
The co-op nursery school.
Right. So the co-op nursery school is the one in the rec center, which is the second lease. We're talking about Four Corners. So
we're talking about Four Corners right now. Okay. Yeah. Clyde, you've been silent on this.
Well, I was thinking that, yes, we don't make money on it, but if there's nobody in the building, we're losing money more than we making even. I mean, it's not that I'm a great fan of subsidized stuff, but if you've got nobody in there, then you've got a money pit that you're throwing money into just to maintain the building. Yeah. So it's a so-called double-edged sword there, I guess.
I think since it's been 4 years, I don't know, we're not giving them very much time, but maybe just raise an nominal amount like $50 a month.
I think that's reasonable.
You know,
I'm sure if it was a private entity renting the building, they would have no qualms about raising the rent.
Right, it's a sizable structure too,
Yeah,
so.
they're, commercial structures are difficult to rent these days, but
Sure.
Okay,
But I don't think we should keep going every 4 years, and whether we should have, every 2 years there's a 2% increase or something. So you don't want to make it very little, so it doesn't hurt.
yeah,
I don't think additional $600 a year would be terrible for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that would be my,
okay.
I'll put that in terms of a motion.
For both entities, both locations?
Well, let's look at the other one next. Let's do one for now and go to the next one.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion, we'll see in 100 seconds if I get it right. So I make a motion that we approve the lease for the activity center for the Four Corners Children's Center with a rent increase of $50 per month
To $900.
to $900 total per month.
is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second.
$50 in this, at this time, with the way that inflation is working right now, that $50 is probably appropriate.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Is anybody disagreeing with that? I mean, people weren't jumping up and
Well,
down.
nobody
about
wants to
seconding
jump,
it,
nobody
so
wants to.
is there a
jump
strong?
Yeah, that's what I felt, that silence there.
Yeah, you know,
I
it's
feel
like,
great about
I'm like, oh, Scrooge here.
That's why I was asking if there's any discussion. So we're ready to vote?
So we're giving them enough time too. I mean, it's not very much money, but we're giving them roughly a month. Let's say July 1st,
Half of May and June, yeah.
Yeah,
right? July 1st, it's a new lease.
Yeah, July 1st would be the start of the year.
yeah.
There was just before you vote, sorry, there's a question online from Kurt Peterson. Does the town need the $600?
Yes.
It would be one thing if it was just one space, but we have to discuss the other ones as well, because I think in all of the spaces that we have, the question that keeps popping into my mind is that the people that are paying the taxes in our town are also the same people that are probably paying for their child to go to daycare at this place. So so she's gonna raise the price of the rent.
There's a limited number of kids in that place, and some of them from outside of Hartland.
Yeah, there's some, yeah, but they're the same, probably the same.
Yeah, we don't know the profile.
Right, we don't know.
But my thought was that even, say there's 20 kids there going there a day, it's, it's $2 a month per kid. So it's all, and I don't think it also comes down to whether it's, can the town afford it or not? Is it, what do we do in the best interest of taxpayers?
So, and it is an 18 building. I don't know what the HVAC system is or isn't. After we had trouble with the floor and the outside painting, I don't know if we addressed the roof on that building or not.
I don't believe there's any, we've looked at that building and
Yeah, okay.
It's a 94-year-old building, the front part, and the other one is 70 years old, so.
Okay. So are we ready for a vote? And then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Going on to the co-op nursery school.
the co-op nursery school. So this one's a little more difficult because we set aside a line item in the budget for the rec center building itself, not specifically for the space that the co-op nursery school utilizes within the building. Right. So it's hard to say whether their rent is covering their yearly maintenance needs. It's a trickier thing to do. So
the challenge we have here is that to keep that it's a nursery school.
The co-op nursery
school in there. We've got to invest somewhere over $250,000 into that building. to bring it up to standard one safety codes.
I think that's a different issue than what we're trying to
I mean, it is.
deal
but
with right
the
now.
reality is, you know, would we have to spend that money if it wasn't there? Right?
Well, we'd have to spend some because it's not up to standards for adults either.
Yeah, so that co-op nursery school is a fixture in this community. I mean, I don't know of a single child, well, I shouldn't say that, but they've been doing this for decades.
Right.
And so they're,
Well, both places have been,
right.
so
So again, what was the last time we had an increase
So-
at that facility?
Interestingly, I was only able to find the last 2 years rental agreements, and it's been $550 since as far back as I could find, which is 2023.
and there's no change in those numbers.
No change. It's
So what's the rent on Four Corners is now
900.
900.
Yep.
This was 550
Correct.
for a quarter of the building, really, because they don't have access to the downstairs, right? So they're actually paying more rent accordingly than the Four Corners Children's Center. So,
What's your point?
well, the point is that I don't know if we need to raise their rent because they're not getting a whole building.
Yeah,
And they do have to put up with the activities that go on in the rec department, the exercise room and stuff like that.
right, but they do get to use the outside facilities, which are there. What Jim's point, I think, is the one that's echoing for me, where we know that the rear stairs are not applicable for a sprinkler system and other ADA issues. We can't collect that in rent, but I think we need to. I like the idea that maybe every 3 years we raise the rent now, and then every 3 years or 2 years we have a built-in small increment, so people are prepared for it. We can always pause it.
So I make a motion that we raise our rent by $25 per month to $575 a month. And I'm doing this because I want to be consistent with how we're treating both of these facilities, businesses, whatever you want to call it, and the importance of it. So,
Do you feel that $25 is proportionate to the activity center?
I can't do the math.
I think it's fairly close.
Yeah.
So
25 versus.
yeah, because one's now 900, the other one's now 575, so it's about half, roughly. I don't want to do 3250 or something like that. It just my point more is both of these things are marginal increases, and to say, well, the Four Corners School has to pay, but the co-op doesn't.
Right.
I make the same argument that
I agree.
the costs it's fairly low and it didn't matter, but I think we have some very difficult choices to make
Yes.
in the coming year as far as what we do with that building and in the like.
And the $25 a month increase is certainly not going to help us in their situation right now with that building.
Or the expense associated with what we're going to need to do. So, but I think it's
it's just to some degree building up a fund so that we can continue to keep paint and so on and so forth. Any additional discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. The motion passes.
Friendly reminder that the activity center, Four Corners children should be sprinkled also.
We haven't had a meeting.
like, don't you have to go home?
Not yet.
So these are the only two disagreements.
Those are lease agreements. And again, we talked about this when we talked about the Damon Hall Rec Center RFP. There is no mandate to sprinkle these buildings. Yes, it is recommended, and we should have that in the back of our mind as we move forward with improvements at both structures, but there is no, the fire marshal has not come and said, thou shalt do this thing.
I don't recall the language in that report. What's this state statute? Is there one, or is there?
No, I looked at this when we talked about this, about the rec center, and there was, I think there's an understanding from the state that there are countless number of these structures across the state. And if we mandated that all of them within the next 3 years or 5 years be sprinkled, half of them would probably be shuttered.
Exactly.
So
this agreement is, so.
yeah, no, I know. So I apologize. It's the same thing with Megan. You are on the ones. Yes, you are correct. There was like a weird quirk that all transpired.
Okay,
Yes.
we're good.
Yes, I acknowledge that.
It's okay. It's right, all right. Everything will work right out. It's fine.
Okay, moving on to item 4, Mill Street Bridge Report. And we are going to add to that the mention that the Willard Covered Bridge, the second bridge in that area.
Correct. So you have the report. We hired Heritage Engineering in February to do an analysis of the new quote unquote bridge that was built in the 90s, I believe.
Bridge 21.
Right. And Todd they go into great detail about the structure, how it was built, how each member, I know a lot more about wooden bridges now than I did on last week, Thursday, having read this. But I think the key takeaways for me, and I'm just going to point them out to you, is if we doesn't have it numbered,
The loads.
the load ratings.
Yeah.
The punchline that I read was
Is that near the back?
5,000 pounds, but you had the ability to make exceptions up to 6,000 pounds.
Correct.
I mean, it's like 16.
16,000. So the regular traffic, the recommendation is 12,000 pounds or 6 tons.
Okay.
And then up to kind of with written permission by myself or the road foreman, you could increase that. And some of those would be guided trips across to making sure folks are staying in the middle of the bridge, because it has an impact on how it would handle the weight.
Yeah, and it does mention that should 2 heavy vehicles get on there, that they didn't calculate that.
Right. It also does go into some ongoing maintenance that I think we need to put on our radars in terms of replacing some of the cribbing underneath the bridge. If you go down there and look, it's interesting. When a car goes over, you can see it compress, and those sit on top of concrete, and so obviously they get wet, and that those pieces of wood just absorb that water.
Yeah, and the report mentions that the carrying timbers under the bridge are actually laminated boards, quite large.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But they're not timbers. And I don't know, and they stress that they're held together by dowels, whereas a true laminated board would be glued together. So I'm really struck with on the first page, the fourth paragraph, I guess, where the engineering firm writes, our load rating approach was guided by blah, blah, blah. Modified as we have thought necessary for this relatively uncommon covered bridge system. That scares the bejesus out of me. What is, so someone went off the grid a little bit to do some construction that would normally be, and when I read the report and when I saw the emphasis on the dowels holding up the under the 3 by 4 by whatever they were together, I did get worried about that.
So Jan Lewandowski, I believe, is the one who built the repairs.
Correct.
He is nationally renowned in this, so I think if we had questions about it, we could always have Jan, and by the way, I know him as a friend, but we should ask him to join us on a Zoom call to talk about this, because I think he may look at this a little bit differently than what Todd did.
And they did meet together.
Yeah.
They did meet together on site so the builder could actually answer the questions about what type of wood is this and
Yeah.
why was this done in this way.
Okay.
It was very enlightening conversation. So to that point, to Tom's point, and I don't want to move beyond this to talk about the other bridge, but I had
It's designed based on the other bridge.
correct. I did, knowing that this was coming in, also reach out to Laura Stone with the Vermont Agency of Transportation, who's been my point of contact for the Willard Covered Bridge, so the North Bridge.
Mhm.
They have recently completed their study and would like to schedule what they call a
Local concerns.
yes, a local concerns meeting. They traditionally like to do them at regularly scheduled select board meetings. They can be approximately 60 minutes long to get input from the board, but also we would put the invitation out to residents. We could invite Todd, we could invite the builder. So all the folks that could be in the room, either in person or virtually at the same time, to have a conversation about the future of the North Heartland covered bridges. So V-Trans requests, they said they'd like to have 30 days notice prior to scheduling that meeting. So we could put it on for the second meeting in June, would be a little less than 30 days.
What's the date of that?
I don't have my phone.
Okay, anyways, yep.
Yeah, I'm wondering,
June 20, I'm sorry.
17.
just, we have a pretty full, we have policing in June, we have, the items that are there. Can we push it out to the first meeting in July?
We could potentially, I think that runs into, 4th of July is around there and folks' availability, but we can certainly go for the first meeting in July. And if we, get
Scheduling issues.
people who might not be around.
My only concern about that, Phil, is the longer we put off this local concerns meeting, the longer it's going to take to get the final analysis from V-Trans. So they're not going to move forward until they hear from the public.
Okay.
And so if we have to have a longer meeting one night, I would really like to get this thing somehow resolved, because
No, I do.
it's just,
You and
I don't think the news is going to be great, but I still want to know what's going on. So
I guess the reality is we can't raise the weight limit on Bridge 21 until we know what the limit is on Bridge 22.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, and Jim, you just stated what my concern has
Yeah.
been now. We have two bridges and there are different constructions and potentially different load limits. So that doesn't have to get across them both. So are we in agreement that we'll have a June meeting, the Willard Covered Bridge discussion with the state? And then do we want to add to that discussion and have the engineer for Heritage here?
I think we can invite them. I think we ought to focus
Yeah,
just
I think,
on
Correct.
it'll get a little confusing if you do. Because V-Trans is just going to show you their design. They just want to hear from us and for the people who live in that area, what they would like to see done there. Maybe we could ask Todd as our representative, but we really haven't talked to Todd yet as far as whether we agree, disagree with some of the recommendations.
Okay.
So I think as an engineer, he might not want to be all that forthcoming without having, or maybe just talk to John.
Right.
Talk to John.
Right. I can talk to Todd. Yeah, I can.
See what he says.
I can talk to Todd. There's a question online about whether there's a time requirement warning for public hearing. I don't believe
That's the third, I think it may be 30 days. That's what V-Trans wants.
that's what V-Trans wants. So we might not be able to do that June 20th meeting if there is a time requirement, but I can check with V-Trans.
Is this all historic reconstruction, or can they try to do something like put a steel I-beam or 200 of it?
I think those are good questions for V-Trans, specifically as it relates to the older bridge, which might be the limiting factor. So to future plans there.
So help me, I'm sorry, I just don't know enough about loads and so on.
Yep.
What Heritage Engineering is saying about loads and say permission, and let's just say both bridges are the same, hypothetically.
Okay.
What would be allowed across the bridge, given what Todd is now saying, or Heritage Engineering, vis-a-vis what we allow today? What would be the change?
You get 2,000 pounds more.
I know, but wait, that doesn't mean anything. Does that mean, can we bring a sand truck over there?
No,
Can we bring the sand truck on a one ton?
you can't bring an ambulance across that if it's class, if you want class 1, there's 16,000 pounds.
Fuel trucks.
So it doesn't really help us at all.
If you can get it if the bridges can tolerate 16,000 pounds, which is the state limit, at least you can get an ambulance across that bridge. But they won't, yeah, I think
It's a van one, not the dual axle.
I think the biggest of the classes is 16,000 pounds and fully loaded. Yeah, but all that would be research.
And also the town safety vehicles, fire and rescue,
Correct.
cannot go across that.
Correct.
So I guess, I'm wearing my professional hat now, so just full disclosure, so I'm the district manager for the Greater Oak Valley Solid Waste District, and they own property up off of Quarry Road. We are allowing them access through our property onto Twin State Sand and Gravel's property, which is then to Quarry Road. Quarry Road is a private road. Neither Twin State nor the Greater Upper Valley Solid Waste District wants this to be a permanent solution. What we are presently doing, there's been vandalism at Twin State Sand and Gravel, and there's just been some silliness with young people using Quarry Road as a racetrack because it's one of the nicer paved roads in town.
But it's locked.
It's not.
It's not always locked.
Theoretically, there is a gate, or they are not always closed after town trucks go through.
Okay, so just left open.
Yes, left open. So.
And it's not much of a gate.
Right.
Right. Quarry Road though has its own.
It does, has its own locking system.
Right. But the gate on Mill Street.
Right.
The north end of it. Yeah.
Just a cable. Right.
Yeah.
I think unless the bridges both got completely replaced with modern bridges, you're still going to have that private access for emergency vehicles, plows. Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting, and again, we have lots of stuff on our plate. At some point, we need to have a discussion with these entities to see whether or not there's maybe things become a town road instead of using the road or whatever. I think in the short term, we are not going to resolve this covered bridge issue.
Sure.
And so I know conversations with previous administrations did not go well. And so I'm just throwing that out.
It's always good to talk.
Because you would hate to see, especially Twin State, say we're stopping. They own Quarry Road.
Yeah. But the connector, it's pretty much a class 4 road.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm afraid to drive on it in snow. I don't know how a fire truck or propane truck gets through.
Yeah, I think we've just outlined a number of factors that are of a concern. There are residents that live there. I think there's one or two businesses on the north side of the bridges. We've known about this for quite some time. We've been graciously been able to use our road. There's been some incidents where the two people that Tom's talking about have come to the town and say this isn't good. I too worry about the safety of vehicles. So let's have this meeting.
Yep, I will.
And I think at some point, late summer, early things, even by Twin States, when needed,
Sure.
just hear,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
Is Quarry Road, when it comes off Route 5 in Hartland?
Oh, Hartford.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so it's not all
no, it's in and out.
of in and out, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just the L's goes in that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
To further complicate.
Yeah, nothing's easy.
Okay, any other comments on the bridges?
There's one other comment online that in addition to all those things, there's also the farm trucks that utilize the bridges as well.
We're very aware of that.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
You know, whatever projects happen are gonna take a long time. I think we still have to worry about the maintenance tasks that have to happen. And, right, so that has to
Yes.
get going. But signage might also be a good thing to say, single vehicle center bridge.
Yeah. There was some suggestions within the report about how to direct people towards the center of the bridge.
Yeah.
You know, there's some short-term options that the town could look at funneling cars and vehicles towards the center so they are, using the strongest point of the bridges. So I think that's the other question is we have this report that says the recommendation to post them at 12,000 pounds, to post this bridge at 12,000 pounds. Do we want to take any action on that or wait until after
Not if the other bridge isn't. The other bridge weight limit has to be minimum.
Okay.
The other bridge, just so
Bridge
we're clear, that's posted at 10,000.
Willard, off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that.
The whole thing is posted at 10,000.
Yeah.
But there's no history where that sign came from. Yeah.
Well, just, we can't have one posted at 10 and.
Right, because, there were, yes.
That's what was
Okay.
going on that point. Okay, thank you, John.
Okay.
On to the town manager report.
Sure. So, we have one of our highway trucks back. The good news is we have one of the two trucks back. We got the six-wheeler back from the shop with a rebuilt transmission. Unfortunately, it's gonna not be covered by the insurance. So we will be putting the entire bill for the towing and the rebuilt transmission. That'll come out of the highway equipment fund. It was just over $10,000. So
Is that the four-wheel drive?
the six-wheeler, is that yeah, I think that's the four-wheel drive. Then the other one, the F550, that is, we're still waiting. It's still at the shop. So it's been 3 months.
Which shop?
There's the diesel mechanic up in Thetford. The name of it.
Dalton's Repair.
Is this the one that had the front end issue that we had an accident?
They put the new engine in it, and then it ran into the DEF issue.
Diesel.
Yeah, it's diesel. It's trying to get parts. It's just been.
So do they,
As is.
do we know what the schedule is? Or just waiting on parts, or are they still trying to get to the issue?
No, we know the issue. We have been once again told that we should have it by the end of the week.
Yeah, that just sounds.
We've heard that story before.
You
So,
didn't say which week.
yes.
Is this a mechanic we usually use for repairing our vehicles?
No, I know. I worked with him for years at Gateway. He opened his own business, and I assumed it would all go well, and it has not. Sorry.
Yeah, we did get a,
Give him some more time. If he doesn't fix it, just.
Tow it out and.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. We might come to like either have it done or we're going to come.
What's fair?
Yeah.
Couple weeks?
I mean, it's literally been months at this point.
Yeah, just give him, just say, hey, a couple weeks from now, it's not done. We're gonna have to take it someplace else.
Where do we normally bring them?
That's all.
Right, and not paying.
We're okay.
We have a normal diesel.
We don't have a normal place we bring trucks for repairs.
The reason I ended up there is because he did a reman engine. It was $10,000 cheaper than Lebanon Ford.
We can do some investigating to find, a slightly more local than that for diesel mechanics as well.
Which brings me to my next point. A little bit is not always the right way to go. And sometimes you're forced into it, especially the way we are, but in the end.
We have there's been a track record of low bids, and we are trying to break.
Yes.
that part of it.
Yes.
We want to be fiscally responsible.
Yes, absolutely.
But at
Like
the
I
same
said,
time,
He's always a good guy. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
until they're not, right? And I get it. You totally understand.
Yeah.
You gotta try it, and if they don't work, then
Exactly.
right. We're all on that.
yeah,
you can't get the truck back, and then
I've said this publicly before, that the modern diesel is a very, very complex engine and system, much more so than when the smoke bellowed out the back and we all couldn't see for a while when the truck pulled away. The use of the diesel emission fluid, the recirculation of gases is just makes it more complex. It doesn't explain why they can't get parts, but yeah.
Okay. So we'll follow up, and again, if we don't hear anything, we'll give them that a more specific timeline to work on. You may have noticed the past couple of weeks there's been some progress in the Three Corners. We've been in contact with Knott's. They anticipate the triangle at the curb being fixed before mid-June. Our load of dirt to fill in the kind of wet spot in the grass should be, I think it's sure when we have a load of dirt, we will come, but it's on their list, and they know that as soon as it's done, their work is essentially, Knott's work is essentially wrapped up. First Light's work is done. Comcast's contractor has been here for the past week and a half or so, pulling all of their cables through. I spoke with VIII late last week, and they said they anticipate being done by the end of May, which gives Green Mountain Power 30 days to pull the poles, and then we'll all be in compliance with our kind of July 4th deadline.
That's exciting.
So
Very exciting.
yeah, they've been out here every day for the past, I would say, five or 6 days. The North Hartland School Committee met, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. We decided to go with an inspector to come and take a look at the building because there's some concerns about whether or not it's actually usable in its current form. So we have a building inspector coming this Thursday. They're not specifically going to be testing for lead paint or asbestos because it raises the price significantly. Although it's our understanding from talking with them that not lead paint, but they can look at the ceiling tiles and say yay or nay. Yes, that probably has asbestos in it and you should plan on that, or no, those look modern enough that they would be.
What tiles?
I think they're ceiling tiles
yes,
in the main room there.
But I mean, it can be used or had been used in flooring. And
Yeah, and insulation
so
as
you
well.
can see that, and the lead paint, they kind of know.
Are we holding on to this building in hopes that we're gonna use it again someday, or?
It's an open discussion right now. There's a committee who wants to look at possible reuses, also recognizing the fact that, if there's, for example, lead paint and asbestos, those are real limiting factors.
So I don't know its historical value. I don't know, right? I mean, in this economy right now, when everything is selling, why don't we just sell the building and use that money to help this, help with the costs of the buildings that we want to keep for the future? I don't understand why we're holding on to it.
Trace, I think we recognize that the community in North Heartland was passionate about keeping the
It's
park.
stapled to that space.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
That's why I asked. Historic value.
And the committee, I think, is actually some of the things that are being tossed about is carving off a parcel of land that would include the schoolhouse and selling, getting rid of it and keeping the rest of the park intact.
That sounds like a reasonable concept.
Yeah, so, but that's only one thing. I mean, it's gone from everywhere to, once we understand more about the structure,
That's why we have the committee to see if they can come up with
So,
some
yeah,
different scenarios.
yeah, at the last meeting, this whole idea of whether or not it was a safe space to use came up. And so we should have that report again. I'm meeting with them on Thursday. I'll meet the home inspector out there and go from there.
So the building itself is not. But it is a statement for that space, and you take that away from them. But if you're just maintaining it, if it's just sitting there, if the kids can still use the fields, and athletic,
If we did a subdivision.
Right, absolutely.
We did have some tree work done this past week. Ted Knox took down 2 of the big trees in front of the cemetery on Station Road, between the church, as you're going down Station Road. The first one was dead. The first one had to come down. It was dead. There remains, of the 8 trees that had been there, there remains 3. There was a bit of a mystery as to why the second tree came down. If you're driving down the road, the first tree had to come down. They also took down the second tree. No one quite can put a finger on why that one came down and not the third tree, which is the one that's actually dead. If you're looking at it, you can see visible decay and I don't know that they took down the wrong tree or there was not clear guidance given to them. That is, at this point, we can't do anything about that though. What remains though is the third tree still needs to come down. We were given another quote from Ted Knox. I walked out and talked with them, and it's not an insignificant price. It was about $4,500 to take down that third tree.
And what were the other 2?
I think the bill for the first 2 was $5,200, something 5,100, 56. So it's over 5. They did talk about doing it again. They had to mobilize a crane. They had to mobilize, multiple pieces of equipment. There was 4 guys out there. So
this was under the auspices of the highway department? The tree work?
it's unclear as to how the contract or the agreement came to be. It predates.
I don't remember.
Never heard about it. I'm also just had a day's worth of tree work with a crew of 3, a lift, a chipper, and they raked everything when they were done, and 5 trees came down, and they pruned, and they climbed some, and they used the crane for others, and it was nowhere near that amount of money. And this is a respectable firm out of Pomfret.
Do they have a contract with them?
They do not, and they had an agreement to do those 2 trees.
Yeah, that doesn't.
When did we do that, Mark? Do you remember?
So last spring, the sexton for the cemetery came to me and said, we get big branches falling down, breaking stones, chipping stones. So I got with Bill, said, let's get hold of a tree company. He said, well, we use Ted Knox. I said, fine. Ted Knox came out, looked at him. We had an agreement. I thought the agreement was the first tree and the third tree.
It was interesting.
All summer, Ted Knox kept behind, couldn't get anything done last year.
When did Knox come out? What time of the year?
I would say it would be in May, because that's when we start really ramping up that, cleaning that cemetery up.
Because I had an interesting time when this crew I'm speaking of arrived, because they had, the owner of the company had come by, walked the property with me, we made decisions, but they had photographs without leaves on the trees. So there was, is this the one that's coming down? We had asked that a few times. Anyway, it just seems steep.
Sure. So we can look at additional things, but the third tree does need to come down because it remains a safety hazard.
So let's get some quotes. So
yes.
I don't think we're following our procurement policies.
So if it's less than $5,000, we don't, I have the authorization to do it under the procurement policy.
Which would explain why there was no job description and pricing and some kind of documentation for the trees, because if you're doing an estimate for somebody, you would say the first tree and the third tree, the 2 trees that we're looking at, this is what's going to cost. Did we get one of those? Did you get anything from
it? Was all by
Verbal?
Verbal, yes.
So we will make it slightly more formal than that.
Right, because he was probably under
Yes.
the money, the financial limit.
Again, I don't know, I can't speak
I didn't
to,
go by the financial limit. I expect him to take good care of us as he always has in the past.
And he did not. Okay.
And the cost came out more than I anticipated it would be.
You
So,
may want to reach out to Stebbins.
yep, yeah, exactly. And who has done work for us, other trees behind the rec center and things like
Yeah,
that. So,
the location is important here. If they have to cut and lower by boom the pieces, as opposed to drop the pieces, that's,
Right. The work that was done looks great. I walked over there today, took a couple photos. It looks really it's cleaned up nicely,
Okay.
but we
Well,
should.
we're not arborists, but I am struck with, it feels like we should be getting some multiple quotes here.
Sure, absolutely, of course. I just wanted to put it on your radar that we have to take that third tree down as well. So we did lose, so I think at the last meeting, we had lost a road crew member. We lost another road crew member this past week.
Two total.
Two total. So we lost a road crew member and Bill submitted his resignation as the road foreman. So he will be working through the end of this week, and then he will be using up his accrued leave time, which takes him to June 21st. So we are short-staffed in the highway department in the interim.
What are we doing for management of the highway department during the interim?
That's good segue. So in the interim, there's I've talked with BJ Madison, who's been on the crew for approximately 18 years. He's willing to step into that interim road foreman role and fill that while we search for a new road foreman. So I would like you all to, authorize, BJ to be the interim road foreman.
Do we need to, or is that just?
No, I'm putting on your radar in case there's, again, any other suggestions or.
Have you been able to advertise, and where does one advertise for these positions?
So we traditionally have put things on Indeed. We will put them on Indeed. We will also put them on the Vermont League of Cities and Towns Classifieds and get those out there.
Newspaper. It's kind of a thing of the past.
We've not.
Some people still read them.
I'm open to any and all suggestions. I think we'd probably do a shorter recruitment period for the road crew position and a longer recruitment period for the road foreman position. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing would be if there's, for the road foreman specifically, whether we want to have more than just myself. So a member of the select board interested in being a part of the interview process.
Yeah, and that might trace to be part of the interview process.
It would be nice to have somebody with legitimately some equipment experience.
Want to ask, like, say, Mike Spatman from West Windsor, who's been a long time
to be a part of
yeah, he might be able to ask certain questions.
Yeah, no, it's a good
Yeah, or a representative from V-Trans.
Yeah, we can try to put together, a small group because it can be, difficult to then schedule.
Right. I think that's all up to you as well.
Right. Yes, yeah, but I would like one of the board members to be a part of the process. So we'll get those going, but again, for June, realistically, they're down to 4 people over there.
So you're saying we're in serious trouble if we have a snowstorm?
I'm saying, for multiple reasons, yes. Or maybe a flood, but let's hope that doesn't happen either. So, and that is it for me.
Okay. For future agenda items, we have the ones that are printed there. In addition, we have the Conservation Commission has completed the forest management plan for the Jenny Town Forest, and they would like to have us review it and approve it. I don't know if there's a deadline for that, but again, in a June meeting. We've talked about the covered bridges, and we have a plan there. The Vermont State Police contract is part of item 2. So we have, for policing, we have multiple contracts to deal with.
Correct. So we did get a draft contract from the Vermont State Police at the very end of last week after I reached out to the lieutenant to see if they were willing to kind of continue on in that role that they've been doing this past year. You have a copy of it, on your table. It came in again late last Friday. So it's something to consider moving forward.
I noticed in the warrants, we actually paid them some money, so they're and I've seen them.
The state police. Correct. Yeah. This contract is kind of mirrors last year's, and to date, I think they've billed us a tenth of what the contracted amount is, and that speaks to their staffing.
So do we have contracts for any other organization?
We are currently under contract with the Windsor County Sheriff's Office through June 30th. So we need to revisit that prior to July 1 and or additionally sign this contract with the Vermont State Police.
But are those the two players at this point? No other players?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So can we at least get a draft of
the next contract for the Sheriff's Office? Absolutely. So the town is budgeted to do 40 hours a week with the Windsor County Sheriff's Office next year. That's that $145,000 that we budgeted last year. So
Does that include the?
that does not include this. So the question that we can talk about at the next meeting will be whether we want to sign the state police contract and acknowledging that they probably won't bill us that full $70,000, or do we reduce the contract with the Sheriff's Office to 30 or 35 hours a week and build in some padding in that $145,000 number.
So maybe you could do is look over in the last 3 years or so and see what we've actually spent for state police. They'll give us a better idea.
Yeah.
It's not going to come near to what they contract for.
It is not.
So let's just try to get an idea.
Yeah.
The only thing that scares me, again, is that if you have a 40-hour contract with the sheriff's department, that's one thing, because they're gonna be there for 40 hours. If you start to say, well, the state police might come in, and they might be here for a couple hours here and there, you're not getting 40% coverage. And you're not getting 80 or 100% coverage, you're only getting whatever they can afford the time for. So we need 40 hours a week.
Yeah, but what you could do, right? If you
Have both. I like what you said before, sorry. I do agree with you, having two different organizations as a benefit, even though they're supposed to be covering us anyway, in case of emergency. So I'm with you on that. I agree.
So this is not, do something like a 30-hour a week with a sheriff and a 20-hour a week instead of 40 with the state police. Now you contracted for 10 more than you budgeted for, but with the theory that they won't.
But I don't think we're even getting that amount from the state police.
No, so we could, but I think that,
No, I agree with you. So you contract for, whatever, 20 with the state police, knowing you probably only get 10. Right?
Yeah.
But if you do away with the contract, you never get it back and you'll have no redundancy.
Also, it's disturbing to me that I'm hearing that everybody's just rolling through the stop signs and no one's paying attention to it. Can we get the police department out there and start?
We can stop every time.
I stop.
I use my blinker and I stop.
Yeah. Well, you're from Wisconsin. You're just nice. You're just nice.
Yes.
Signals left and then turns
Right.
I'm occasionally stopping at the phantom stop sign that's no longer there.
Yes. So I can flag that to the sheriff's office.
Because they're out there.
Yeah. Yep.
Good point, John. I was accosted before I came in here from someone that lives in Four Corners and said that speeding in the last week was up and that there's a sign. I know the road crew was fixing the speed limit signs. I watched them fix some of the speed limit signs.
Yeah.
But there's one still down by the rec center, and he said that there's been a couple of occasions that, not the rec center, the activity center. There's been at least one occasion where a child that was supposed to be delivered to the activity center was slipped a hand and was on the yellow line of the road on that corner.
Okay,
And it's excessive speed.
sure.
That's what's his
It's
complaint.
40.
Yeah, no, I will. So I can flag these areas of concern to the sheriff's office. Absolutely.
Which sign?
It's
I'm not
right
sure.
before the gravel pit, right before the sand pile.
They fixed that one. It's
Did they fix
nice and straight.
I hope it is.
I rode my bike by it. There it is. It's up
okay.
nice and straight because before it was tilted down.
Okay.
It's now up. Yeah, no,
No, he just came to me as I was entering the building today and asked if we could put it back up again. And he said 30 mile an hour limit. I said, no, it's 35. But either way, he said that the traffic speed has increased in the last couple of weeks by his house. And you know what? Memorial Day, weekend here, it's about to get worse. So if we could get the sheriff's department, give him a phone call, just tell him, I know you guys are busy and everything, but maybe we could spend a little time on the roads here this week. In particular.
Yeah, I'll make sure I reach out.
Fire him up.
Okay.
Will do.
Going on to correspondence, I sent to you the feedback that we got from the listers after I emailed Stacy saying that she was going to be working on an RFP for reappraisal. I just want to bring it to your attention that it's there and we need to address it. I found myself rereading what she wrote, and then as an example, if I understand it, that we need to choose 5%, a 5% random sampling of the parcels with improvements. And then apply that. And then the question for me is, she talks about applying that to known properties with, is it known properties with improvements, once they get the new rate, or is it all properties and so on? So I don't want to dive into it tonight because this is correspondence, but they're suggesting that the statistical reappraisal as opposed to the full reappraisal, and we've got to put it on the agenda to talk about it.
So we do have Cheyenne on. Cheyenne, can you shed any light for the simple-minded like me as to what this is?
So I would just say Cheyenne did say improvements being buildings,
Right.
not on parcels.
In list buildings or improvements in any buildings on the law.
Cheyenne is unmuted, so.
So, we've had discussions about this, as listers, and I was not CC'd on the email that Stacy had sent to you guys. So I don't feel comfortable speaking on it. But if you have questions, like I did put in the chat, which she means by improvements, I believe, are properties that have buildings on them. So in that selection, I don't think that it could be any properties, parcels that are just land only. That would not be a part of the selection of 5% of property.
Do you think the statistical method is better than waiting for full appraisal?
You should ask her that. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
I think that's more of as a board question.
Would be best for both the CLA and the COA. And I think after our discussion,
I think the statistical would be best. So we said.
yeah, I'm sorry, the COD on that part. But I still, it's a mystery to me what's the effect on my tax bill? Is it going to, or is there a statistic that is going to emerge based on this 5% random sampling of the new places that is going to be applied across the board? And that's, those are the things that
The 5% is just the trigger.
The 5% is, yeah.
And then they're going to do the townwide. I think, isn't that how I read that?
Well, I
don't know.
I didn't get it out.
I just wonder if we can get somebody from property review to go on Zoom and just talk to us about the
Property review.
in Montpelier, the state folks.
So the people that the district advisors.
Yeah, whoever they are. And
So I'm still on here. Sorry. I can say a few things if you would like. I'll just say, certainly if you would like, we can come to the next meeting and discuss this with you in further detail, and if you have any questions. And second, I think you're referring to possibly bringing on our DA. Her name is Jen Myers. She's the district advisor for Hartland. And, we could contact her to possibly have her come to one of the select board meetings, like you said, via Zoom.
I will say your agendas seem like they're filling up very quickly for June.
And that's why I was hesitant to when to put the bridge.
So,
Okay.
So maybe it's not June, but I mean, it seems like a reasonable idea.
Coming to a future meeting. Yeah. And I can coordinate with Cheyenne and the lister's office to make sure that we get that doesn't fall off of, I know it's a real squeaky door, that we get that on a future agenda.
There is more of a chance with the statistical reappraisal that if your current appraisals are skewed, they're going to be skewed even more when you take what is the multiplier we put in, after we do the statistical. Because it happened before. I mean, if you're off, and then you say, okay, this is the multiplier we'll use to raise everybody's appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
If something is skewed originally, it's going to be skewed by a bigger percent.
Right. Yeah, and would that happen here in Heartland, or is
Yeah,
that just what
we did a statistical.
Okay, so this is complex, but we need to get it addressed on that part. Okay. Is there any other correspondence?
There was no other correspondence.
Okay. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to stay for a while.